and kind of chew on my cord to my laptop. So don't do that, bad boy. Hi, everybody. I'm so sorry. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties trying to make sure that these were streaming on both Saving Pets One Pet at a Time and also on the Spaw's Facebook page. And I knew that this was really important because when I put out the question, which if you didn't read the question that I wrote, should veterinarians be allowed to sell prescription medications? And I could tell that when there's controversy, because a lot of people are like, you could see it's yes, no, yes, no. And I only left it yes, no, because I know it's an open-ended question, right? Should they, shouldn't they, is not exactly how we can answer it. And some people were even confused as to why would you even be asking that question. Of course they should, right? Like it's something that we've been doing for so many years that it just seems like, is there any other way? I had people ask, well, what else would you do? I mean, how else could you do it? And so I knew there was going to be, thank you, Dee, for running this live through Pawformative, because this is going to be an interesting topic for us to talk about. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff, and ultimately what we're really talking about is how to protect your pets. So if you know me, if you've listened to me talk before, you know I love to share some stories with you and why I think the way that I think. And if this is your first time on, just a quick little recap. My name's Carrie Hyde. I am the owner of the Spaw in Tustin, California. I was a vet tech for 12 years prior to opening up my facility. I hate to call it facility. It sounds so cold. It's not a facility. It's actually a very warm, loving place to be. And so I hate to call it that. There should be another name for that. I don't know what it is. But a lot of the information that I share with all of you is from 40 years of experience working with holistic veterinarians, conventional veterinarians. One of my really, really, really good friends is a conventional veterinarian whom I love. She's an oncologist. Recently, she's been doing a lot more. I got her to switch onto a raw diet, so I'm very excited about that. Win-win, win-win. Especially, I mean, you get a veterinarian to switch over, and it's like bonus win, right? It's like winning the biggest lottery of all times. So it's pretty awesome, especially for an oncologist. But she just learned what she learned, and when you're inundated and you're around a lot of death and that kind of stuff, it's really hard to try to change, and you know what you know, and you're comfortable doing what you're doing, and she has seen some great results doing some of the things that she's done too. So who am I to judge? And that's what I'm hoping people won't with me. These are my experiences. It's what I have dealt with. It's the stories that are shared to me by many, many good, loving people who have shared these situations with me, and the frustrations that they get when they go through it. And so recently over the years, I've had tons of situations where I question whether or not it's a good idea to have veterinarians sell the drug that they're recommending. So let me back up a little bit. I also want to make sure you know that this runs through two places. Well, now it's on Pawformative. So thank you so much, Dee. She's just been such an amazing. If you're not a part of that group, I would highly recommend that you join Dee's group with Pawformative. It's also called Healthy Paws. She wrote it here. If you guys can see that, I'm not sure if you can, but it's another really fabulous group with a lot of great information for you. So I definitely recommend that. And then there's Saving Pets, which I'm a moderator for. And there's 27 moderators of us in that group. And then, of course, this runs live through the Spa so that my clients always have access to me. They always know, because I spend a lot of time in the therapy bathroom where I'm doing a lot of therapy baths and that kind of thing. And so I don't have a lot of time up in front with my clients. So I always tell them, if you want to talk to me, meet me here Wednesdays at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. That's our time. But any questions that you have as we move into this topic, which is very controversial, and I'm even a little nervous. I'm like, oh God, I told Lori before we started, which, by the way, thank you, Lori, for fixing our problem so that this can be streaming through both sides. It's really important. Without her, I wouldn't even be able to stream it through Facebook, let alone through the Spa's Facebook, let alone any other one. But I'm a little nervous. I'm a lot nervous because I know that this is going to really upset probably quite a few people. But bear with me, like, hold on before you send me male. Um, let me finish. Like, that's one of the things that I think we are all guilty of, right? We read the first line and then we hate that person before we actually understand all of what we're saying. And also keep in mind that it's case by case, right? I love Rita Hogan. Rita Hogan always says dogs are individuals, but guess what? So are you. Dogs are individuals, and they have individual owners who have individual lifestyles, who have individual pocketbooks, who have individual experiences, and all of the stuff that is going on. So remember that not only is your dog an individual, but so are you. And so the choices that you make have to both work for you and your pet. And so as we dive into this topic, don't take anything I say personal. I know you've been prescribed drugs by a veterinarian at some point, and they probably worked and they probably were fabulous. And maybe there's going to be people on here tonight who have been prescribed a drug by their veterinarian that saved their dog's life. If you're one of those people, you're instantly going to think, I'm this crazy lady and you need to do it. And if you're one of those people who were prescribed a medication and your dog's got very, very ill or very, very, and I hate to even say the word because it's hard to say it, and died from it, you may think absolutely not, they shouldn't. So let's take both those scenarios, because they do happen, right? Where dogs are prescribed. Someone had written that a veterinarian had prescribed an ear cleaner that then caused dry eye, and it trickled down, and there was some more other problems. And then somebody else had actually written that their dog took these medications and they're feeling so much better. And so just know that there's so much more to this topic than just yes or no. And Nova Scotia, I want to go to Nova Scotia so bad. That's why I'm like, I want to go. I love Canada. If I could handle the cold, I would live in Canada. I would absolutely live in British Columbia. It's one of my favorite. Not that Nova Scotia is there. I know my geography, but I just love Canada. I just can't do the cold. When I make a state, you're gonna have, I'm sure that's a typo, she'll fix it for me, but just know that there are these very extreme cases in everything that we do. And then the other point before I dive into this I want to make is that there are in every industry good and bad statement, in any industry. So if I'm stating something about a bad vet, that doesn't mean I think all vets are bad. Heck no. I have a lot of really, really great friends who are veterinarians and are amazing, amazing people. And when we say bad vet, I think like groomers, right? Like I always talk about this because I have a lot of groomers around me, more than I have vets around me. I have a lot of groomers around me. And people think, if the dog is scared, then the groomer must have been abusing the animal. And to that, I always say it's highly unlikely. That's not what happens in the industry. There's other things that cause dogs to be stressed to go to groomers, but there are the cases, but they're very few and far between. And with veterinarians, I think there are very, very few actual bad veterinarians. We do know some. There was one in Florida that was arrested for, dare I say it, actually having sex with dogs. I'm sorry I said that, but it's true. It happened in Florida. You guys can look up the case. It was disgusting. So there are very few bad veterinarians, but what there are veterinarians who aren't, they don't have the right tools necessarily. And so those tools that they rely on a lot of times aren't the best choices. And that's why I wanted to dive into this, to talk about, like, if all of the veterinarians were the amazing veterinarians that we all love, right? If they were all the Dr. Bugs in the world, if they were all the Dr. Morgans and the Karen Beckers and the Katie Woodleys and the Odette Sutters, if they were all those vets, then I would say absolutely let them sell prescription medications if they want to. Now, the funny part about that is those vets wouldn't be selling a whole lot of prescription medications. But because we can trust them, we know that they're going to be looking into what they do. Even a good veterinarian can make a mistake. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Which is, so where do the mistakes fall, right? Veterinarians can make mistakes. Doctors can make mistakes. Humans can make pet parents can make mistakes, groomers can make mistakes, we can all make mistakes. And so we have to look at that. And just because somebody prescribed a medication to you and it wasn't the right medication for your pet and something bad happened doesn't make them a bad veterinarian. It makes them a veterinarian that made a bad mistake. But when we talk about prescription medications, my problem, first I'm going to talk about my problem with veterinarians prescribing medications, and then we'll talk about the good part of it. So there's the good, right? There is the convenience of it, right? We'll get into the good. But my problem with prescription medications is I'm going to share a little story with you about a dog who had huge yeast problems, and just tearing at his paw. I call it, we call it self-mutilating. He would rip his paw off if you took the cone off of him. He would just dig at it, and he would leave honestly, if given the opportunity, I think he would have ripped his feet off. He was that intent about it. She had tried Apoquel in the past and knew that she did not want to do Apoquel. It actually wasn't even working for her dog anyway. Cytopoint was starting to come around a little bit, talking about Cytopoint, at least in my area. That's the other thing. This is just in my area. If Cytopoint came out for you in the East Coast before Apoquel, maybe. But the vets in Orange County had Apoquel first and then Cytopoint. So her dog had already done Apoquel. It really barely was working, if anything. And then she started learning about all of the side effects to it. And her vet had suggested Cytopoint to her. At the time, it was a very, 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 very new drug. It hadn't even been on the market. I hadn't even heard of it. That's how new it was. I had not even heard of it yet when she came to me and asked me about Cytopoint. And I said to her, I think it would be better if you gave your dog until we can figure out what the cause is, right? Because we want to figure out what the cause is of this poor animal. But I said, I think it would be better if you tried a drug called Temerol P until you could figure out what we can do. Well, Temerol P is a mix of steroid and antihistamine. So it's a combination. It has been on the market before I was even a vet tech, and I'm in my 50s. So it had been around a long time. We do know that steroids are not our favorite thing to do, but we did know what some of the side effects would be. And with Cytopoint, we didn't know yet. There's just no way. It hadn't been on the market long enough. And so I said, why don't you go back to your veterinarian and try and ask him for the Temerol P. Well, she did that. She went back and she says, what about Temerol P? Well, he was adamant that Temerol P was the worst thing you could ever give a dog. It was a steroid. How could you do that? He actually said that she should go back on the Apoquel, which was interesting to me because we all know Apoquel is, got its serious problems. So, but the reality is through investigation, what we found out is that he didn't have Temerol P on his shelf. He didn't carry it. He didn't have it. I don't even know if he really knew that much about it. He was kind of a younger vet. So that's my point, is that whether that drug, if he could make more money off Cytopoint, I don't know. If he didn't know what Temerol P was, is when we have a big pharmacy like Walgreens, right, and vets can study and learn a little bit more about medications, and maybe they're going to just prescribe it because they're not making money off of it. My vet said the same between Apoquel. Yeah, me too. Like I just Temerol P over Apoquel every single time. If you're going to do it, do Temerol P. Apoquel is just awful. So, but either one of those, Apoquel, I just would never give that to my dog. Temerol P, I've never had to do any of that kind of stuff. But if I see animals all the time, and that's the one that I will recommend. And then we do it in small, tiny little doses until we can figure out what's going on. It's just to give your dog some relief. But my point is that when our vets are put in that position and we can't 100% trust that, I hate to say this because I don't think they're all bad. I do think that they definitely make money off of selling them. And so that becomes a situation where it's a conflict of interest, right? But that can, I'm guilty of conflict of interest in a supplement form, right? You all know, and if you don't know, I'm not a big supplement fan. I don't love supplements. I really like to do a lot through Whole Foods. But there are times where I can't get the dog to eat the sardine and his vitamin D levels are down and we need to give him a vitamin D supplement. There's times when we have to use supplements. And of course, I am biased to the ones that I carry because I investigate them. I'm comfortable with them. They don't have any junk in them, and I'm biased to them. And so we could say the same thing for our vets, right? Well, he didn't carry Temerol P because he doesn't believe in it. And maybe that's true, or maybe the other drug is better markup for him. I don't know. What I know is that I think we play a dangerous game when we allow the drug to be sold by the veterinarian, because they could make a lot of money off of it. So I did a little investigation, preparing for this talk tonight. And I called around a couple places to find out how much a drug called gabapentin would cost. And the variation between the gabapentin, just in my area, between one vet to the other vet to the next vet to the next vet, was appalling. And I think that's the other problem, is that they're allowed to sell it for whatever they want. Apparently, nobody questions it. And then when the markup, like gabapentin, for example, the range I got was anywhere between $95 all the way down to $25. So huge range between vets in my area, and quite shocking. And then the other story I wanted to share with you was, if it wasn't on my shelf, right? If I'm the vet and it's not on my shelf because I don't carry any drugs because I can't, I'm similar to a human doctor where I'm going to give you a prescription and you're going to go to Walgreens to get it. Would I be overprescribing medications that aren't necessary? And here's an example of that. So a dog goes into a veterinarian hospital, and it was a dog that I took care of. And so I have to admit, one of my bathers got shampoo in her eye, and it's tearless shampoo, so it doesn't cause any harm. Well, I shouldn't say any harm. It can cause a little irritation. So generally, what can happen is the dog can scratch their eyes, and if they have the little dew claw, they can scratch their dew claw. So we want to put a cone on them immediately, and then if it's not better in the morning, we take them to the vet. So this is the situation that happened with this little dog. And I mean, I've been grooming this dog for 15 years. So knock on wood, it was the first and only time we got shampoo in her eye, but she rubbed it all night. Must have been rubbing it on the couch or something. Mom didn't think she needed to have the cone because she seemed to be okay, but at some point she must have been rubbing it. And then when she woke up in the morning, it was worse because of the rubbing. But when we took her to the vet, when she got to the vet said, "Oh, there's no ulcer. Good. And there's no scratch, nothing." But it's still irritated, because just like you, if you rub and rub and rub and rub and rub and rub and rub your eye, it's going to get irritated. So he ended up prescribing quite a few things, including gabapentin, which I find very, very interesting, because gabapentin is a serious drug. Like it's really serious. It can knock an animal out. They use it for dogs that have seizures. It's for nerve pain, those kind of things. And this animal did not have any of that. He didn't have a laceration. He didn't have anything. And he reached for the gabapentin, and then gave it to this woman, which of course, none of us want to see our dogs in pain. So when a veterinarian says, "How about some pain meds?" We all raise our hand, right? None of us are going to be, "Nah, it's cool. Let her be in pain," right? So my thought process on that is, had he not been the one making money off of it, would it have been prescribed? Or would he have said, let's just keep the cone on her a little bit, let her go home. Let's see how she is a little bit. Maybe we can give her, I don't know, a little anti-inflammatory to see, instead of reaching straight for the gabapentin. That's my big fundamental problem with it, is that we're making money off of it, and that can stand in the way of, they overprescribe Metacam. Absolutely. Metacam is I can't even talk about Metacam right now, because I'm 99% sure it is the cause of a death of a dog that I was fostering. And so that one gets on me. But I wonder, would that have even been suggested had it not been a drug that could just be given and sold? So those are my two reasons. Are we prescribing the right medications, or just the ones that we happen to have on our shelves? Are we over prescribing medications? Like when we look at like metronidazole, right? If the vet didn't sell metronidazole, Would every dog that have diarrhea get metronidazole if there was no money to be made off of it? Or would the vet possibly say, you know, he's only had diarrhea for a day. Maybe we should just take him home and let him sit for a little bit. And if it doesn't work out, then we can go from there. If we weren't making money off of it, I think we would see that a heck of a lot more. Now, there are those vets out there. We know them. If you're following me or you're following Saving Pets, or if you're on Paw Formative, we talk a lot about these vets but they're inundated and they're hard to get into. So it can be really, really stressful when you can't get in to see, Dr. Suter or Katie Kangas or, any of these fabulous vets that we have. You can't get into them. And so you end up at this conventional veterinarian who's just reaching for everything on the shelf that they have. But we see that even in some of the holistic veterinarians, not any of the ones I've mentioned, but where they're just reaching for the herb, right? We still have to look at the cause. We still have to look at stuff, but this is where it's going to fall on you guys. It's going to fall on you guys. Metronidazole is a great example. Know that there was a study on metronidazole. Metronidazole is one of the drugs I think is the number one gut destroyer. It's going to destroy your dog's gut. So if he can go without the metronidazole for a couple of days, then we should do that. There was a study done on metronidazole, and they found that a dog who has no other symptoms, nothing. He's running around, he's eating, he's drinking, he's acting normal, he's playing with his ball, he's sleeping normal, everything's normal. But he has loose stool and you panic and go to the vet. If you did nothing to that dog, his diarrhea would clear up in 3 days. If you give him the metronidazole, his diarrhea will clear up in 3 days. So literally, I don't want to say you've done nothing to help the gut, because actually you've put your dog into a situation where he may become dependent on metronidazole, which is, trust me, I have a lot of dogs that come to me that are reliant on metronidazole in order to survive. My own dad, his gut is dependent on, the heck is it called? Miralax. So my dad's been drinking Miralax for 20 years, and every time he tries to get off of it, he ends up with a problem. Just to forget, D says, seems like many people just forget what we used to use, what our parents and grandparents use. We didn't get all these drugs on pets years ago. Natural remedies aren't something you have to worry about reversing. It's true. It's true. And that's the other thing. Sometimes we're so quick to, just give a drug, and you got to question. So I had to take a cat to the vet the other day, and this is a long story, but the kitty got into a cat fight and then came in for boarding with me. And while we didn't know, and then while he was boarding, we could smell something. So we had to take him to the vet. And this is the best cat and the best owners. So please don't, they love this cat. It's just nobody knew it was there. He's a big Maine Coon. And so we took him to the vet, and I actually really liked this vet. I got to tell you, I really liked this vet, but he went right to an antibiotic. And I said, I don't know the history on this cat. Can we just please look through his history before we give him anything? So I had to speak up. I had to say, he came in, he grabbed the chart right in front of me. He sat down and looked at it and said, I want to give him this antibiotic. And I said, can we just, before we give him that antibiotic, I really need you to can you just go? I don't know anything about this cat. So, and his parents were out of town, so he had to go through the thing and do it. Maybe he would have done that without me saying it before he gave him the drug. I don't know. But I had to step up and go, we need to get I need to know that this kitty, you don't have anything bad before we give him this. He definitely needed an antibiotic, and it was super convenient that this vet was able to give this dog the antibiotic right then and there. But just because it was convenient doesn't necessarily mean that it was the best choice, right? If I'm in an emergency room, I can get an antibiotic right away. But if I go to a regular doctor, they're going to send me to Walgreens to get it. So I think ultimately, as I always say, is that it's going to come down to you guys I always tell this to people, walk away. Unless it's a huge emergency, like your animal is going to die, walk away. And even though you may feel like he's going to die, like this little kitty that had this injury on his back, it looked horrible. It looked horrible, scary, all of these things. But walk away, go sit in your car, ask the vet all of the stuff that, your dog your dog or cat is going to be getting, and go in your car and research it. Google it. Take the 15, 20, at least 15, 20. Promise yourself. I am not going to give my dog any medications until I've researched his condition and understand the medications. I'm going to put a time limit on for you. I'm going to take at least 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. I'm going to take a day because, 15 minutes isn't that much, but at least you're doing something to make the change. And who knows? Back when I was working with Joey's Legacy, I remember that Scott Fine lost his dog to something that was given to his dog, and his dog had kidney failure. And it said right on the insert, don't give to dogs with kidney failure. But the vet missed it and gave it to him, and his dog ended up dying from it. So imagine, what would have happened if Scott went out into his car and researched that medication really quick, and he saw it says don't give to kidney failure, and he's like, wait, my dog has kidney failure, right? You have to take control. Stop letting the vets can make mistakes. Stop just going in and shutting our brain off and just going, okay, whatever, do whatever. Ask questions, check your medications. Know that just because your vet is recommending Apoquel, it doesn't mean that there's not another drug, Temeral P, on the market that would probably work better and be safer for your pet. So if your dog has allergies, right? Instead of just walking in and that vet only, drugs are expensive. That's the other thing, guys. Drugs are expensive. Back when I used to work for the vet, one of my jobs was to do all the ordering for the medications. I couldn't believe the bill you would get for these medications. And I can't tell you how many times now I was young and dumb and didn't really understand it. But now I look back on it. I remember one of the doctors I worked for telling me, we don't have the money for that. Don't order that yet. We'll order that next week. Don't order this. Make sure you order this. Like, I remember being told, don't order, and make sure you get more of this, or don't get that, or that one's too costly. And then I remember the drug reps coming in and this one's on sale, right? We're having a big sale on this one. If you buy X amount of this drug, you're going to get 20,000 vaccines for free, or whatever. That wasn't 20,000, but you know what I mean? So that's the drug of the week this week. That doesn't mean that it's the best drug for your dog. It's the drug of the week because he got it on sale. He bought a bunch of it so that he could, and now he's got to get through it so that he can have all of this, that, and the other thing. That's my problem with veterinarians, and the fact that we do have some veterinarians who are not more forward thinking, more holistic thinking, and we're forced to go to those vets. We have to go to those vets because we don't have enough holistic veterinarians. They're inundated. They're overwhelmed. They can't keep up. All of the vets are now. I think Dr. Morgan just did something recently talking about the amount of vets that are going into vet school and what's happening. And it's just awful. So we have to take control. We have to learn. We have to take classes. We need to go to events. Dr. Morgan has quite a few classes you can take. I know you can take Dogs Naturally magazine has a lot of classes. That's one where I got my certifications to be a pet nutritionist. They have a lot of classes you can take, and you really need to. If there's an event in your area and you think you don't want to go, learn, try to educate yourself as much as you can. I personally think, I hate to call it an alternative to Apoquel because but if we're going to use that term, Temeral P is an antihistamine / steroid. It should only be used, in my opinion, when an animal is self-mutilating because it does have a steroid in it, but it has been around forever. It really has been around a long time. That's part of the problem with the drugs. Back when I was teching, the reps would come in with the newest, greatest drug, and they would take the vets that I work for to lunch, or they would bring lunch in, however it was. I know it still happens to this day. And they would educate the veterinarian on the newest, greatest drug. That's who they learned it from, the sales rep. And everything she said, they never researched it. Now, granted, it's different times now, so maybe vets are able to research a little bit better now. But back in the day, they weren't testing it. They weren't nothing. And then they would just, oh, cool, this one's the newest drug, and it does this, and it does this, and it does that, and it does that, and boom, it's out there, and they start giving it to the animals. The testing on dog drugs is mostly done out there on your dogs. So it's too little. It's not every breed. It's not every size. It's not long term. And so Apoquel is a perfect example of that. It got thrown out there before it was really tested. And then the problem is it gets out on the market and it takes a long time for people to realize that they're the symptoms. Let's look at flea and tick medication, for example. It's not even medication, flea and tick drugs. flea and tick pesticides is a better word for it. The flea and tick pesticides that are on the market right now, those got thrown on there, and it literally took, yeah, your dog is a guinea pig. I'm on, my dog's a guinea pig. Yeah, no, my dog, your dog, our dog, all of our dogs are guinea pigs. But it took, I knew in my heart, not through studies or anything, in my heart and mind, soul, every being in me, my intuition told me that the flea and tick stuff was causing seizures. I just knew it. I knew it, but couldn't prove it. And I knew it 15 years before the FDA reported it. And it took that long for vets to start going, and for pet parents to start saying, this might be happening, and then putting it, and then sending in their results and all of their symptoms and stuff to the FDA. Took a pup into my old vet. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Lori. Put some stuff for Temeral P. So again, Temeral P it has a steroid in it, guys. I am not sitting here telling you, go get Temeral P. It's going to solve all your problems. It is only should be used for serious problems. I wouldn't use it for, it says in here, I'm reading it. Lori has it. It says it would be used for kennel cough. I wouldn't use it for kennel cough for sure. But that's what they're saying it is for, but, kennel cough can be treated with honey, honestly. But it does have an antihistamine in it, and it has a steroid in it. So you want to be really careful with it. With any drug, my personal thought on it is that you start with, a quarter of the dose, in case you're, especially if it's a first time. Always amazed at people who take their dogs into the vet for the first, like, I don't know, like Bravecto or any of those flea and tick pesticides, and they just give them the whole pill right off the bat. Oh, here you go. And then the animal has a reaction and we can't stop it. So with any drug, I would always ask if you can use less of it versus using all of it. And see what happens. You can always use it later. You can always give them more if you need to, but start with the tiniest amount and be committed, guys. If we're going to talk about, itching, which is really kind of every dog's problem right now, be committed to finding the solution. Be committed to figuring out what the cause is. Don't just go, oh my God, this is the miracle drug. I love it. My dog's now going to live on it forever. Because it does have a steroid in it, and it can lead to liver problems and some things like that. So you want to be really, really careful with, be committed to figuring out. I know it's hard. I know it's really, really hard trying to figure it out. I'm getting really, if we're going to talk about itching, which we are going to in a minute, because we're going to talk about my other problem with prescriptions. But I told you we were talking about the good and the bad and the ugly, and we just talked about the bad, right? Are we getting the right drug? Are we getting it for the right reasons? Are we being prescribed? I know a vet who prescribed an entire month of tramadol, which they can't really do anymore because tramadol. I had to call a vet because I'm like, why is gabapentin the newest, greatest thing that ever lived? All it does is drug dogs up and leave them in the corner. It's awful. I'm like, I'd rather a dog have tramadol over gabapentin any day of the week. Tramadol over gabapentin all day long. And I found out that tramadol is now becoming a controlled substance through veterinarians. So they can't just prescribe it as easily as they could. And so gabapentin, it's not controlled. So they can just, here you go. So, but tramadol I would take for pain over gabapentin all day long. But again, anyway, I know a vet who prescribed an entire month of tramadol for a dog who had a little tiny scratch. And I'm not minimizing it. I am literally not minimizing the scratch on this dog's face. And it was a dog who was playing tug of war with another dog, and they were two big dogs. They were playing tug of war. And let's say this dog, and they were big dogs, but let's just say this dog lost, right? So he kind of lets go of the rope, and this guy gets it. And when this guy went to grab the rope the second time, he scratched the other dog with his tooth. The dog was totally fine. It was at my boarding facility when I was doing big dogs. But I always call the owner and say, what is your comfort level? Do you want me to take your dog to the vet? She said, yes, take him to the vet. Took him to the vet. I promise you this dog was fine. There was nothing, but I took him to the vet. Owner wanted me to, which is totally fine. I get it. When you're out of town, it's scary, right? It's so scary. And you just feel better having a doctor look at it. So I get that. And I'm on board with it. So I took the dog to the vet, and the dog, they did x-rays, which I thought was a little excessive, given that the dog had no symptoms of broken jaws or anything. But they did all of that and found nothing, literally found nothing, and then prescribed an entire bottle of tramadol, which again, would that have been prescribed had that vet not been making money off that tramadol? This dog wasn't in any pain now, nor was he going to be in pain for the next 30 days. That would need 30-day supply of tramadol. But this was back years ago when you could get, now I would imagine that same vet would probably go, here's some gabapentin, and he would have gotten prescribed a bunch of gabapentin. So be careful, guys. You wouldn't go get, think of it in terms of this. If you had a scratch on your lip, would you have your doctor call in a prescription for you for Vicodin, right? No, you wouldn't. So just because the veterinarian is saying it doesn't necessarily mean your dog has it. Now, does that mean that I think no vet should ever prescribe medications? Kind of. I kind of think that because I think we have less veterinarians that are conscientious about that and stay true to the fact that does this dog actually, or does this cat actually need this? Because I think we have fewer of those, I think sadly we're going to have to take control over it and get some laws passed that vets can't be selling this stuff like this. But then that puts us in a bad situation for the situation like, what if, right? You have an emergency in the middle of the night. Maybe just emergency room clinics can provide it. I don't know. We have to really kind of dive into it to see, because people aren't going to like it when you go to your vet and you can't just, we're used to that. That's what we want, right? Like we want convenience. We all do. I told you, I just took a cat and it would have stunk if they were like, okay, now you got to drive over to Walgreens and get the antibiotic for him. It'd be kind of hard. So maybe we just do like an injection antibiotic, but any pills have to be given through there. There's all sorts of things we can think about and look at, but ultimately we got to come down to what control we take over it and what we're willing to accept and what we're willing to not accept and what we're willing to do in order to protect our animals. Are you willing to walk away and go sit in your car for a half hour and tell them, you know what, I'm going to think about it. I just want to look at stuff. I just want to be comfortable. I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I'm scared to give my dog a drug. Any vet that thinks you're a jerk for that shouldn't be your vet, because it is scary. You don't know what your dog can't tell you what reaction he had, right? I had some surgery and I took some Vicodin. This was a long time ago. I had my gallbladder out, which going back now, I would not have done that, but it's too late now, which is to my point, right? Once you make those decisions, there's no going back. And I was given Vicodin, and that stuff, it made me sick. But if I wouldn't have been able to actually tell my husband, oh, this stuff makes me feel, he wouldn't have been able to look at me and go, oh, that stuff's making her weird. I felt weird. I can only verbalize it in language, but my dog and cat can't. So you guys have to be really, really careful. Long-term, when it's not meant for a long time. I know exactly. You know that, here's one. If this is for at home for humans, if anybody's taking Miralax, because I told you about my dad, thank God my dad's not on Facebook. He'd be so mad. But because my dad is been taking Miralax for eons of years, I started really looking into it, and I found some FDA reports on Miralax that it was only supposed to be prescribed for 1 week. And so you're not supposed to take it for more than a week. And my dad's been taking it 20 some odd years. And every single time he tries to get off of it, he has a problem. Yes, I have tried to help him, including and up to even making my dad's food for him for a couple of weeks, but he gave up. And even though within 1 week, my dad said he had never felt better. And I made him come to my house every day and I made him food and I packed his lunch. I did everything. My dad lives a mile away, but he's addicted. He's addicted to it. So our bodies become addicted. Our minds become addicted to drugs, and we have to be really, really careful with them. They also prescribe Apoquel long-term, exactly, long-term, when it should be used for, I personally hate Apoquel. I'm sorry. That's the one. I just think there's better alternatives. And you need to know what those better alternatives are. So type into Google, what are all the drugs that are prescribed for allergies? Find out what they all are so you can make the decision, because you're letting your vet do it. And I told you, they may not have that one on the market, so they're not going to mention it to you. That one wasn't on sale this week, so I'm not going to mention it to you. You have to be careful in knowing what you're doing, which is going to lead me to this next little topic that I want to talk about. This is a big, huge pet peeve of mine. Really, first off, Before I talk about medicated shampoos and prescriptions, had me on for stomach for 5 years. I began having abdominal pain. My nurse friend said stop immediately. Oh God, yeah. See the things we learn, right? And you're able to say you have abdominal pain, but your dogs aren't, and your goats aren't. I know Dee has goats, and your goats aren't. They're not allowed. They can't say anything. So before I talk about medicated shampoos and prescriptions and how that's going to come together, I want you to know that I hate medicated shampoos. So I am not plugging medicated shampoos as the end all. You should use these. These are the greatest things ever done. But these come into my shop all the time, right? And here's my problem with it. These can all be bought online on Amazon. Okay. Every one of them. You can get these on Amazon. But what happens is veterinarian sticks a prescription label on it. Prescription label. And when they do that, we think that this is something we can't get online because they stuck their prescription label on it. And then guess what happens? You all can guess what happens next once that prescription label gets stuck on there. I'll give you guys Jeopardy time. The price goes up significantly. The price goes up on these the second that prescription label goes on. So the one that I have in my hand, the prescription that was written on it says to bathe the dog in it once a week. And then I flipped it over and it basically says the same thing. So there's nothing about that the vet wrote that is different than what was written on the back of this. There's nothing different about it. So I called around and I wanted to find out how much these are being sold in vet hospitals and what they were sold on Amazon for. And so there's ranges. I'm going to forget, but I believe this one, oh no, it was this one. So pretty sure it was this one. And I'm not going to give the names because I don't want to get called out and yelled at, but this one was like $6.99 on Amazon. And then when I called around vets, they ranged anywhere. You had to come in. And so you had to pay for the vet office to come in before they would let you buy this. And then when you bought it, I said, okay, that's fine. You know, how much would it be? One of these bottles was $89. And on Amazon, I could get it for $8.99. This one was like $59 or $49, I think it was, on Amazon, and it was $65 average when I called called some vet hospitals. And that's simply because there's a label on there that says prescription on it. And that's where I get really upset because taking care of a pet is so expensive. And here's the thing. When you say they mark it up, I think everybody should be allowed to earn money. I certainly don't think that we shouldn't be allowed to earn money. My problem is when we take advantage of that and advantage of not knowing, and we do stuff, in my opinion, I think it's a little trickery to put a prescription label on it. Why not just sell this in your front lobby for the same price? Or I don't even care. Mark it up $1 more than Amazon. I don't care. But when we're talking about, 50% more for a shampoo that I can get on Amazon, it's unethical. Thank you, Facebook user, whoever said that. It's unethical to me. We do have to make money. We have to feed our families. I mark stuff up in my place too. We have to. Otherwise, I can't pay the rent. I can't pay employees. I can't answer the phones. I can't be there. I have to. But we can't be unethical about it. We can't say your pet needs this because I sell it. There's many times I tell people come to me, a good example, people come to me, they ask me for a digestive enzyme. I said, please try papaya first. My dog's got low vitamin D. Please try sardines first. I'm always going to go to the what can you do first? And if that doesn't work, then we can move into something, because I recognize, as somebody who does rescue for the animal shelters, that the animal shelters, I looked this up. I probably quoted this on here before. I looked it up, like the number one reasons that animals get left in pounds, and I know I'm aging myself by calling it a pound, because now they're what are they called now? Shelters. I don't know why we took the word pound away. I think we should call it what it is. I don't care if you want to call it a shelter. It's a pound to me. It's not a place that an animal's like, woohoo, I hope one day I end up there at the shelter. It's not a shelter, it's a pound. And when animals get dropped off there, 47% of the animals that are dropped off at the animal shelters, the pound, are dropped off there because of medical conditions. And so when we're charging these kind of fees for stuff that we shouldn't be, upping our price, when there's a range between $25 and $85 in a pill that is sold to our animals, it's ridiculous. What is happening there? And then now I have a sick animal because of whatever reason, genetically or generationally, he's been messed up, or the diet is, whatever the cause is, that you have a sick animal. And now the treatment for that animal is going to cost so much money that I can't afford it. And I end up leaving my animal at the pound. I think the reason why the animal shelters started calling them animal shelters is because they wanted to make it feel a little bit more comfortable for pet parents to drop them off there. So I guess in that sense, it's probably okay to call it an animal shelter. And I know sometimes people get really, that's a whole nother heated argument we could talk about, right? The people who drop their animals off at those places get beat up all the time. But if you beat people up for leaving them there, guess where they leave them? Tied up to fences, or they leave them running around the street. So please, another little plug is, don't fault people when they are in the position when they have to leave their animals in shelters. You don't know what shoes they walk in. So don't do that. And this is coming from a person who works in rescue. You don't know the situation they're in. Sometimes they're awful situations. But maybe that's why they use the word shelter, because then, yeah, definitely if I had found myself in that situation, I'd rather bring my dog to a shelter than a pound. So I just worked myself through that. I'm like, okay, yeah, we can call it animal shelter. But this is my problem with marking things up. And this is my problem with, should vets be able to sell medications? And if I have to answer that, if somebody said, Carrie, you have to answer it one way or the other. No more playing games, no more middle of the ground, though I'm a very middle of the ground person and I still am. I think I have to go with no, because I think that the harm in doing it creates more harm to the animal, and the harm in not doing it creates more harm for the human, right? It's less convenient for me. I don't like it. I want convenience. I think we can work around the fact that in cases of emergency rooms, obviously they should be able to administer medications. I think that the veterinarian should still be able to administer, right? I got a shot of an antibiotic for this poor kitty. I think that they should be able to administer medications, and they should be able to make money off of the administration of it. But anything that can be picked up at a Walgreens or whatever, I think that is how we should do it. But that's never going to happen. So I'm just going to put that out there right now. That's my wishful thinking, that I wish it was like that. So in the meantime, what you guys need to do is your homework. You have to be your pet's advocate. We talk about it all the time. On Saving Pets, Kelly is really big at that. When you know more, you're going to do better. She has a saying, which for the life of me, I can't remember right now. So, Lori thank you for putting that. Yeah. So that's a microbiome that I did with Dr. Morgan a while back, talking about medicated shampoos. Thank you, because people bring them into me all the time, and I cringe about them because they're designed to kill. They're very much antimicrobial. They're antibacterial. This one says antimicrobial, antifungal, antibiofilm, moisturizing shampoo. There's nothing moisturizing in here. And in here it has chlorhexidine. Chlorhexidine is used for that kind of stuff. But chlorhexidine kills a lot of things. So it is going to kill some of the good bacteria along with the bad bacteria, which is something I always talk about when we talk about medicated shampoos. Be very careful with them. I have a lot of dogs that are addicted to them. And when I say addicted, I mean their skin is, the second they go off of it, boom, all hell breaks loose. And then we stop, and then we go, and then we stop and we go. And then before you know it, you're paying $85 for this little teeny tiny, this is 16.9 ounces and $85 sold at a veterinarian. But you also have to get the You also have to get the office call before you can even get this. So you have to pay whatever your office call is. Then you have to pay for this, and just be careful. If you feel like there are rare cases in the case of staph infections. Sometimes I will say, all right, let's try a little bit of the medicated shampoos temporarily until I can get it almost to where I need it to go. And then I'm going to microbubbles it, and I'm going to use some good probiotic shampoos to help get that kind of stuff in. So there's all sorts of stuff you guys need to do in order to protect your animals. But before, so I hope that answered your question for you. I hope I didn't make anybody too angry. I know there's probably some vets out there that are, throwing rocks at their screens or darts at me. I hope not. I support vets 100%. And I more than anything want all of you and all of us as a group to help educate. I shouldn't say educate. Educate is such a, you're not educated. Well, we know vets are educated. So maybe you guys can help me with a better word. Help give them more information that they can add to their toolbox. So it takes us to do that. And that's my big goal. That's our goal of the event that we're doing in September, is to teach you guys how to give your vets more information that they need to increase their toolbox, with what they can do and how they can do it and ways they can do it. In the meantime, if you ever see anything on the ballot, thank you. And you know better, you do better. I don't know if that's one of my fellow moderators, because it says Facebook user. It might be. So Kelly always says, you know better, you do better. And it's something that it's true, right? You know better, you're going to do better. And you have to be open to that. Sometimes people just want to shut down. Like, even when I wrote this, I felt like I got a couple people maybe not too interested in this topic. Like, this is stupid. But we have to talk about it, because people don't think like that. They don't think that the drug that your veterinarian is prescribing is one of maybe thousands that your dog could be prescribed if you were going to use a vet. Lori just told me who that is. So it is one of my moderators. Thank you. Actually, she's one of the admins. She's fabulous. I don't know if she wants me to say her name, because she didn't say it, so I won't. But yeah, so I'm glad you made it. I am so wanted to talk about this topic, because it drives me crazy when I see these dogs being prescribed medications that I don't think they would have been prescribed had the vet not been able to make money off of it. And I think that happens more times than not. And I see the drugs coming in constantly. Gabapentin is one of them. Apoquel is another one. And if they weren't able to sell it, I just don't think they would be prescribing it as much. But ultimately, it comes down to you guys. You can say no. You can say no, and you can seek better information. You can seek out a homeopathic veterinarian, seek out information through Facebook groups, but be careful. Be really, really careful. Serenia is another one you got to be really careful with. So Serenia is one that you want to make sure there are no kidney problems. You really want to be careful with that. But you won't know unless you look it up. You got to look it up. Dirt dog always in the dirt. He gets a water bath. Water baths. Dee knows I'm water baths. Big, big fan of water baths. Nothing. You use nothing but water. Just nothing but water. And her dog's in the mud all the time. And he's a white dog, and he rolls around in the mud all the time. And he hangs out with goats, for God's sakes. He's such a lucky dog. He's living my best life. Rolling around I don't know that I want to roll around the dirt. I want to step in the dirt. I like my feet to be down in the grass, but I do want to play with goats all the time. So anyway, I hope this was really informational for you. I hope I didn't offend anybody. It's never my intention. These are just my experiences. I know that when I was speaking with some of the people through Saving Pets before we did this, we kind of all came to the consensus that, ultimately, it's never going to change. We know that. But if you do know somebody who is a lobbyist or anybody who you think might be able to help, I would be willing to get involved in that, because I just think that if nothing else, back when I used to sell kibble, that's another good one. Back when I used to sell kibble, I was telling this to someone the other day. Maybe if nothing else, what we could do is we could put a range, right? So that we're not having a range between $25 and $85 for a drug that is sold for the same price as it is in this city, is that city. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that whatever they pay for it in Tustin is the same price they're paying for it in Newport Beach. I don't think the drug is more expensive, and I get that the rent is more expensive, but maybe like they used to do for me when I sold kibble, these kibble companies, which I liked, I appreciated, although I swear, I always got in trouble, not because I went on the high end, because I went on the low end. So I sell food at my store, but it's not how the business makes money. We do grooming and boarding and daycare. And so nutrition is so important to me, and so important that it gets into the pets' mouths, that I always would just mark it up tiny, tiny little bit. But they would put these ranges. So let's say that I bought a bag of food. I don't sell kibble anymore, so I can't remember. So don't quote me on this. But let's just say that I sold a small bag of Origin, that I bought the small bag of Origin for $20 and I sold it for $22. The range might have said you have to sell the food between 23 and 28. Well, I was at 22, so I would get a phone call saying, Carrie, you're not in your range. And they did that so that it would remain competitive amongst everybody. And so it kept people wanting to sell it, because you wouldn't have people like me, truthfully, like people like me who aren't needing to pay the rent with it, and versus somebody who has a store who doesn't have boarding and doesn't have daycare and doesn't have grooming, and they can't compete with me. So they tried to keep it very competitive. And maybe that's just a simple thing we can do with the drugs, is say, look, you can sell this drug, but you cannot mark it up 350%. You can sell this shampoo, but you can't mark it up 565,000%. You have to stay within your range. And maybe that's all we need. Maybe that's all. Hey, Jill. I have friends using Apoquel, Cerenia, antibiotic. It's tough. I try other and ideas and share links from veterinarians on the subject. I'm sure they roll their eyes a bit, but I have it to at least try. I agree. It's sometimes it's how we try, right? We start learning, like, how do we try? Somebody wrote on here about wanting to get, it was just recently, maybe you guys remember, and I responded to her, maybe just say, oh, the food, a cat, I think it was a cat, was eating Hills, and it just died suddenly. And the girl said that she was pretty sure it was from the food, but she doesn't want to stress the woman out right now because obviously her cat just died, or it might have been a dog. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. And I said, well, how about this? Just recommend that she has everything that's been put in that dog's mouth tested. Oh my gosh, go have everything tested. That way you don't come across as the, Hills is bad, which we all don't really love that food, but anyway, you're right. It's so hard. But Jill's another one of the moderators on here, and you guys have no idea if you're on Saving Pets. If you're not on Saving Pets or on Pawformative Healthy Paws, both of them, you have so many great moderators, people making sure that everything is done right. And so it's always nice when I see you guys join on here and help. I still can't get any of them on camera. Everyone, I've had a few, but everybody's camera shy, so I'm not. Apparently. Anyway, Sailor and Friends, Marnay, hi, how are you? You're welcome. I hope it helps give people something to think about when you're deciding what drugs you need and what you're paying for those drugs. Keep in mind, I know it's difficult to say, hey, you know what, the vet down the street charges $25 for that. But, maybe they need to hear it. Maybe they need to hear it. Maybe they need to get an email later, a nice email. I get nasty emails all the time, and I just send a nice email that says, hey, I just thought you should know, Dr. Smith down the street sells that same stuff for $27. Is there any way I can get it? I like you. I think you're a great vet. I would like to purchase this from you, but the price is pretty high. I don't know, something nice. Don't send nasty emails. All they do is create problems for everybody. They don't get you where you want to go. They don't get, and we're all on edge waiting for it. People in the industry, your vet is every time. I know I'm not a vet, but every time my girls come in the back and they say, hey, Carrie, so-and-so's on the phone, I'm always like, oh, instantly think I did something wrong. Like, what did I do? This is going to be bad. So send a nice email to your vet and say, hey, I'm a little concerned about the situation. But in the meantime, that's my take on vets selling drugs. I think I have to say, I'm going to vote no. I think there's sometimes they should be able to, and other times I think because we don't have enough really conscientious going to reiterate this. We don't have enough veterinarians who are really thinking about it. They're just selling it. They're on autopilot. On, oh, I have this, I sell this, and without really thinking about it. Like, did this animal really need 30 days supply? I don't know whatever ended up happening with that dog. For all I know, he was given tramadol every day because that's what the instruction said. Give one a day until, I don't remember what it said. Actually, it said give one. You could give one a day, but for 30 days, that's a lot of drugs and a dog. So anyway, all right, guys, I am going to, unless there's nothing else, I just want to thank all of my, great idea. We have to keep dropping little pills of info. That's a good one. Little pills. Yeah. Little. The expo that we're doing in the end of September, it's called the Thriving Pet Expo. I think Lori's got it up there. One of the things we're doing is we're going to be doing little, what does Rita call it? I think it was Rita that called it little improvs. And they're going to help you learn to not educate is not the word we want to use, to give our vets more tools. So we're going to teach you ways. For example, your vet doesn't like raw. Here's a good one you can do. Okay. Your vet hates raw. You know, he hates raw. You're stressed out. You don't want to go to the vet, but he's the only vet within, a 2-hour drive from you. Or maybe you've been kicked out of every other vet hospital and he's the only one left. Guilty. So here's what you do. You walk into that vet hospital with a book. You have maybe, I don't know, a book on raw diet. Connor has a book that is really great. So you walk in with that book wrapped up in a nice little gift with a cute little bow with maybe a little dog on it or something that you spent all night wrapping, right? And you wrap it, you walk into your vet and you go up to him and you're there for, I don't know, let's say you're there because your dog broke his toenail and it's chopped off and you need to talk to him. And while you're there, you say, hey, I just enjoy, chatting with you and I love your staff and thank you so much for being here. I bought this for you. I thought you might be interested in it. So here's a gift for you. And then just walk out. And then you've planted the seed without creating any kind of problems or issues or concerns or anything like that. So these are things we're going to be working with you at the Thriving Pet Expo. We're going to be teaching you. So each speaker that speaks on whatever they're speaking about, we know that when you leave the Thriving Pet Expo, you're going to be like, oh, now what do I do? So we will have that there. And we're going to be doing a lot of theater. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's so much fun. So hopefully if you haven't already bought your ticket, join us. It's 2 days. It's in Newport Beach, California in September 30th, October 1st. And coming soon, we're going to be coming on here with all of the speakers and we're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff that we're going to be talking about. I think the next one that's going to be coming on here is Dr. Sands. Lori can correct me if I'm wrong. You may not have met Dr. Barry Sands. She is a veterinarian, a holistic veterinarian out of San Diego, California. And she is amazing. She's an emergency room holistic veterinarian. Like, how do you put those two together, right? She's amazing. And so we're going to have all of that there. The Crazy Cat Ladies are going to be doing a lot of the performances. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys will join us there. But more importantly, I shouldn't say more importantly, because I think that is what will help you plant the seeds, because I'm going to start a movement and I want you to be part of that movement with me. And literally, I'm not kidding. I want to start a movement where we have a plan in place to change the minds of conventional veterinarians, and we're going to do it. We have to. If we don't, if we can't change the minds, like that should be your goal. I'm going to change, before I die, I'm going to change one veterinarian's mind, just one. Right? I've already changed Dr. Haddad's mind. She feeds her dog raw, but I have this goal. I have to get them, even if they may not come on completely onto our side, but just a little bit, right? Dr. Haddad still has some of her beliefs that are fine, but she's changed a little bit. So little by little, that is our goal. And so Dr. Barry Sands is going to come on and she's going to be with us, I think, in a couple of weeks. Lori can tell you. So, I don't know. I'm so sorry. It doesn't tell me who, so I can't address it, but it says ER Holistic Bay name again. I don't know. Help me out. What does that mean? UF and they don't get it. Yes, I'm telling you, D, be part of my movement. It is a movement that I will keep stressing it here. Everybody who's listening, think about where we all are. Florida, there's people on here that are from Canada. We have Nova Scotia. Well, Nova Scotia is Canada, right? Yeah. Nova Scotia. We have Arizona. We have people all over the place. If each one of you change the mind of one vet, which vet? Dr. Barry Sands is the vet that's going to be coming on talking with me. There you go. She's an ER vet in San Diego. She's absolutely amazing. Thank you, Jill. Jill is on here. If you guys could just change the mind of one veterinarian, do you know how far that will reach? Do you know how far that will reach? It's shocking what that effect will have, is finding ways. And that's why at this event, we're going to be doing all sorts of crazy, amazing things. So Dr. Barry Sands is going to be on Monday, June 19th. Thanks, Lori. She will be on Monday, June 19th at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. She's the emergency room veterinarian, holistic. And then we also have Dr. Canizero is on next Wednesday, right? Next Wednesday, Dr. Canizero, she's a homeopathic veterinarian out of Florida. And so we have a lot coming up. So Dr. Connor Brady's, yes, awesome book. Wrap it up. Bring it to your veterinarian as a gift. Don't have it open. Put it so that he can open it up at home and he can look at it, right? And so you don't want to give it to him right in his face where he's just going to be like, oh, okay, thanks. And just give him some time so that he can go home and just, I don't know, maybe he'll just learn. Maybe he won't, guys. Don't get upset. That's one of my biggest things I do. I set myself up. I expect people to react the way I would react. It is my biggest problem. Ask my husband. You always get mad because people don't do what you would do. That's what he always says. He's not wrong. Don't build the expectations up of how your vet should react. I can't remember who the veterinarian is. I always say it's, I really, truly believe it was Dr. Roman, but I could be wrong. So I don't want to really say it, but I had done a podcast with one of the veterinarians and I always ask how they became holistic. I'm pretty sure it was her, but may not. And she said that a client gave her a book and that was it. She gave her a book and she put it to the side. That's the story she tells me. I was like, whatever, that's stupid. I'm a vet. I learned everything you need to know in vet school. And then one day she picked it up and started to read it. And it had planted a seed, but it was a long time after that she went to that book. So don't expect that, oh, I gave him this gift. I wrapped it so beautifully. Of course, he's going to love it. That you're going to get the response right away. If you get the response right away, bonus. But it could be years. You may never even know, like, Dr. Roman can't even remember the person that gave her that book. If it was Dr. Roman, maybe it wasn't. I still need to find out because I always share that story because I think it's interesting who plants the seed. I have another veterinarian that told me that who planted the seed was a vet tech who wouldn't give up on her, who just kept on saying, well, can we try this? Can we try that? I tried this. This did this. This did that. This did this. Dr. Coward in Mission Viejo is holistic. He is, but I think he's about ready to retire. But he is holistic and he is in Mission Viejo, but I'm pretty sure he's about ready to retire. But you can check that for me, but I think he's not there very much anymore. So yeah, you just have to plant the seeds, get that book and then wrap it up and give it to your vet. If it's not that book, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's Rita. Rita Hogan has a book coming out. I'm so excited. It won't be out until October. But maybe you just give him an herb book from Rita Hogan. Maybe you give him a book. One of my favorite books is by Dr. Udette Sutter. If you haven't read that one, Everything Your Vet Didn't Tell You, right? That might piss your vet off, but it might bring some curiosity. I didn't tell them something. What didn't I tell them? Right? Maybe they'll take it personal. Maybe they'll read it. So that's another really great vet book to bring to your vet and just be like, hey, I read this book and I thought you might find it really interesting, and give it to them. And then that's all you have to do. And that's one of the little things we're going to teach you. And I'll teach you some more later, but you can learn all these kind of tricks tips and tricks at the event by the Two Crazy Cat Ladies because they're working on some really great skits. I can't wait. They're going to be so fun. They're going to be so fun. So, all right, guys, it is 6:30. Some of you guys are up very, very late. If you guys are on the East Coast and you stayed on with us, Nova Scotia, are you still there? Just give us a shout out if you're still there, Nova Scotia. Because if you guys are still with us this late, I just thank you for being here. Thank you for all of your questions, your comments. Helping each other out is always a big, big part. You would recommend in Orange County. Unfortunately, guys, I struggle. I struggle with, I've kind of given up. I hate to say that I've kind of given up. So now I'm just trying to teach you how to work around the non-holistic veterinarian. You can't go in. The vet that I went to the other day, he was down in Santa Ana, and he's not holistic. I could tell right away he wasn't holistic. But I asked him what he thought about a raw diet because I said, I just really love your staff. They were so kind. They were so nice. They actually seemed to care about this cat. I have called vet hospitals because of what I do. I have to be involved in a lot of different vet hospitals. I have called vet hospitals, and I don't know what it is about receptionists. Some receptionists, if you're a receptionist at a vet clinic, I'm not talking about you probably, but if this resonates with you, please change. Where they play God with your child, right? No, these are the rules and I'm not breaking them and I don't really care. And you just have to do whatever you're going to have to do. It's not my problem. So this cat was in an awkward, different situation. His parents were out of town. He got bit by some kind of wild animal we didn't know about before he brought in. Now it's really horrible and he needs to be treated. And the girl on the phone was so amazing. She's like, I'm going to figure a way. I'll figure it out. We got to get him in. Let me figure it out. Let me move this around. Let me do this. Let me do this. She actually seemed to care that this cat needed more attention than that dog that's coming in just to get a rabies vaccine. So she moved and adjusted some things around. And of course, she said to me, it may be a little bit of a wait, but we got to get your cat in. So let me figure it out. So anyway, this vet who I knew wasn't holistic just from walking into his office, when I was done talking with him, I thought, so long as the pet parents are holistic enough. So what I mean by being holistic enough is that you totally have a full understanding of it, that what an antibiotic can do, that the holistic of it, the whole part of it, that if I do this, it could equal this. If I don't do this, it could equal this. If you're holistic enough, you don't need a holistic veterinarian. What you need is a veterinarian who's willing to not talk badly to you, who's not going to shame you, who's willing to work with you, who's willing to listen. And if you can find that vet, you don't need a holistic vet. And I think I might have found it in this guy, and here's why. So I asked him how he felt about a raw diet because I needed to know that my clients wouldn't get shamed if they went there. So what do you think about a raw diet? I said. And he says, here's the thing. He's bound by some laws that he has to do for his license. And so when veterinarians become veterinarians, they are not just in charge of your pet's health, but they also are that's why they have to do the rabies vaccine because it can be transmitted to humans and they have to be really careful. Well, since salmonella can be transferred to humans if they touch the raw meat, he just says, I just need that pet parents to know that they're handling raw meat and there could be salmonella in it. And so long as the pet parents are aware of that and their dog is doing well, I support it. And that was the moment I knew he may not be holistic, but at least he is like, look, I just want the animal to do well. And if it's working for the animal. And so I'm probably going to be referring people to them. The other thing I liked about him, not holistic, was he wasn't my kitty, but I was, there representing the pet owner and trying to do the best I could in through communication with him about our options so that I could relay these options to the pet parent. And so I'm asking questions. And what I loved about him is that he didn't go straight to like, oh, you have to do this and the most expensive this and the most that and da, 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 da. He was very laid back. And he said, look, it's already where it is. There's no going back now. We're going to probably have to cut it out because of this, and we could do the surgery, but cats heal pretty well. I think we should definitely give an antibiotic before he starts getting sick and it gets into his bloodstream and stuff, which I agreed because it had gone quite a few days. But I loved his way of thinking. And so Don't always be so quick to think that you have to have a holistic veterinarian. You just have to be holistic enough to understand what you need, what you want, and what your pet's needs are. I also worry that there are shades of holistic practitioners. There are veterinarians who simply wear the title versus a veterinarian whose practice is 50% or more. That's, to me, a bigger danger than someone like this doctor that I'm talking about, which for the life of me, I can't remember his name. And I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name. I will get it. And the vet hospital. I only went there once and I have his card somewhere, and I didn't think I was going to talk about him tonight, but I absolutely think that the holistic veterinarian that uses the title can be more dangerous to you than the conventional vet. And the reason I say that is because if you walk into a conventional vet knowing he's a conventional vet, you're going to start thinking for yourself. But if you walk into a holistic veterinarian, which we call them holistic, you shut down and you think, okay, everything she sells me must be holistic because she's holistic. And so she sells me all the holistic stuff. And so your brain shuts off. These are all the medicated shampoos that I brought over here today. So I think in a lot of ways, the holistic veterinarians can be more dangerous to someone who really wants to be holistic than a conventional vet. So because we have more conventional vets than we do holistic vets, train yourself to go in holistically minded and keep your brain on. Don't shut your brain off. And I think you'll do a lot better. You'll do a lot better. There are a handful of truly holistic veterinarians in this country. There is a handful of them. A big hand, maybe two hands. But there aren't very many. And the ones that there are, I can't even, like, I shouldn't say I can't, like, oh, you know me, I can't even, but I struggle. Like I struggle. It's not, I just, fortunately my own pets, but sometimes I'm trying to get care. I'm so fortunate because I can do everything with my own pets because I have for years, but sometimes I have clients and I call and I'm like, hey, is there any way? And they're like, Carrie, I just can't. And I get it. And so I don't call anymore because I feel bad. I feel like I'm trying to, sneak in there or whatever. But anyway, so just be holistic enough for your animals. Be holistic enough for your animals. I guess that's kind of the thing. And don't just take the drug because it's the one that he has on his or she has on her shelf. Don't just take the herb. Don't just take the supplement. Don't just take the food. Don't just do anything until you have confidently researched it to where you feel like this is the best product for your pet and for his situation and for his individuality and yours, right? We did a couple weeks ago, we did a talk on supplements and, being really careful about the inactive ingredients. By the way, all of these have inactive ingredients. So like this one that says that it's got moisture in it, it's got a ton of alcohol in it. I don't know how moisturizing that's going to be. The other thing that I find in this that's very interesting in this one is that it has oatmeal in it. I got to tell you guys, there's so many dogs allergic to oatmeal. When I run allergy tests, I am proof of it. It's not even about the allergy test. I had a dog a long time ago. See, I go off on tangents. I could talk about animals forever. But I had a dog come to me years ago. It was a little Bichon, and she came in wearing a sweater. And the dad said, I said, oh, does she like to wear sweaters? And he's like, no, it's just that her allergies are so bad that if I take the sweater off, she will peel and scratch at her skin really bad. And he walked in with his, this one's an oatmeal shampoo. So he walked in with his oatmeal shampoo and he said, his medicated oatmeal shampoo. And he's like, you have to give her this shampoo. And I said, would you mind if I bathed your dog in something different? I won't charge you anything, nothing. It'll be the same, everything. But it won't have oatmeal in it. And he goes, well, the other groomer said that oatmeal is like for the itching. And I said, well, it's not working. And did you know that a lot of dogs are allergic to oatmeal? And he says, I didn't. And so I ended up using a different shampoo, no oatmeal. He called me the next day and said that his dog started to itch, but that's the best the dog had ever not. The dog had some serious problems. The interesting thing is I had him run an allergy test and it came back allergic to oatmeal. So please don't use oatmeal on your dogs. Most dogs, I know I'm going to go off on another tangent. I'm always finding something that I go off of, but oatmeal is just no bueno. No bueno. That's the only, is that Spanish? That's the only Spanish I know. I know Grande Moco. I think that's it. So anyway, okay, so we're going to be here till midnight if I keep this up, and I don't want to keep you guys up. Plus, we can find other things. Send me emails if you guys want to send me nice emails that say, "Hey, talk about this. Tell me your thoughts on this. What do you think about this?" That would be great. I usually can come up with topics to talk about because stuff happens. You know, taking that cat to the vet and having that dog get prescribed gabapentin for what is now I'm realizing is just like the dog's eye was irritated. And I don't fault the mom at all. I mean, you're standing there and your dog's going like this and it looks red and it, you know, we don't know how much pain they're in, but it was just an irritation and shouldn't have been given that. So standard process vet line is amazing as well as their human. I agree. Anything from acute antibiotics to allergy and anxiety treatments, they are all naturally derived in fruits and vegetables. I like standard process. Some of them you can only get from your vet. You can't get them. I can't get them. That's how I know that because I tried to carry some standard process before. So you can send emails to the spawdogs@gmail.com. Here's a little tidbit. If you did send me a nasty one, I told my staff, I no longer look at my Gmail account for the Spaw Dogs. It's called the spawdogs@gmail. There it is. Thanks, Lori. Because I was getting such mean emails from random people from all over, like mean people are so mean, guys, that have never even met me and they just get mad and they send me nasty emails. So now my staff can only forward me nice emails. So if you did send me a nasty email, I'm never going to see it because they won't tell me and they just delete them. So I never even know. So, but if you want to send me an email with like ideas on things to talk about, or, hey, can you look this up? I love to do research back from my debate days. It's very sad. I even have one lady go onto my Yelp account and attack me. So she sent me her nasty email. She hate mailed me all over Facebook as much as she could. And then she went on my Yelp account and left me this awful, horrible, bad Yelp review. It was awful. And it's still there to this day. I can't get rid of it. So, and Yelp won't take it down. So, but anyway, and that was over dog skin too. It was a dog that I helped with skin problems. Oh, we're on there now. Hi, Pawformative family. I'm trying to get Dee to go live with me, but she's chickening out. I don't know why. I shouldn't say she's chickening out, but I don't know why we haven't done it. But Dee's fabulous. So I'm trying to get her to come on and chit chat with me. So, all right, seriously, I have to let you guys go. I have to let Lori go. I have to let all of you guys. We have to go. We'll be here all night chit chatting, but I just love talking about dogs and cats. So, all right, guys, I will see you later. Everybody have it. Oh, and Dee, you got to let me know if you try that cat food, if you can get a hold of it. It's a newer company, but it's we've had it in for a while now, and the cats are just going crazy. It's not raw, but it's air dried. And when you're feeding cats air dried, this is real quick since I'm going off on another tangent. Here I go. Nope, not going to do it, but really quick. I love the food. It's called Meow. There's a new company, one called Wolf and one called Meow. It's an air-dried food, but here's the thing, especially cats. Don't feed it all the time because we really want to keep the moisture in our cat's diet. So we really want to feed them a raw diet. But you know those days, like if you're traveling or somebody else is taking care of your cat and they just can't do the raw meat, or there's all sorts of reasons why people do it. Meow is a great food. And they make another one called Wolf, and they're out of New Zealand, and it's a great one. But you have a picky cat and you're trying to transition them, it's a good transition food. So if you're trying to get a cat off of I wish my husband could. I told my friend the other day, the reason I do this is so my husband doesn't have to listen to me talk about dogs. I'm like, seriously, I do this so that he doesn't have to listen to me. It gives me something to talk about. But anyway, check out those products. They're really great. Just make sure that you're giving, but they're good transition foods. So if you're trying to transition your cat from a kibble to a raw diet, if you want to transition them from kibble to meow, and from meow to can, and from can, or you can maybe stick a can in there. And then slowly start to put your raw food in there. So it's pretty great. So my cat won't eat raw. I swear, try it. Try the meow. It's air dried, and you have to let me know. Get the venison, because that's the one my picky eater like attacks now, and she won't let any of the other kitties around it. So anyway, all right, guys, I am going to go ahead. But since we're talking about cat food, I would be remiss in saying that there's a lot of other really great raw cat foods out there. Is one of my favorite raw cat foods. OC Raw makes cat food now. There's a lot of good ones out there. So just make sure you keep them on. Carol, I'm glad you're here. Even though you were quiet through the whole thing, I never know who's listening. So I hope it's helpful to you guys. Always here Wednesdays at 5:00. Next week, we have Dr. Canizero. Dr. Robin Canizero is a holistic homeopathic veterinarian out of Florida. She's amazing. Still can do consultations, so you can reach out to her and do Zoom consultations with her. But she's going to be on talking about, I don't know, we never know what we're going to talk about. So I'll see you guys next week. Okay. Everybody, thank you so much. Lori, thank you for fixing that problem. Earlier, we couldn't get on Saving Pets. So I'm glad we were able to get on there. And I will see you guys next week. Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye.